My name's Rebecca Doyle. I'm Assistant CRM Manager for Odeon Cinemas, and I focus on sort of all of their social media. Odeon Cinemas is the largest cinema chain in the UK with over 100 cinemas, and I just want to let you know that we've been through a crisis, and I'd like to sort of think that the steps which I'm going to give you sort of this afternoon will help you to kind of build a customer strategy together. In August 2012, we had a viral complaint that was posted to the Odeon Facebook page. Now, this complaint was pretty standard for us. It was a pricing complaint. We tend to get sort of them fairly regularly at Odeon Cinemas, and we have our sort of standard responses we go back to. But in this incident, for whatever reason, this post sort of picked up sort of traction, and it moved forward, and to date it's had nearly sort of 300,000 likes and just over 25,000 comments. And the way in which Odeon dealt with this crisis at the time was how we were briefed to do. It was sort of what we thought was the right thing to do, and it turned out that actually our comments were getting lost sort of within the thread, and it looked to sort of the common sort of fan that we weren't responding and that we didn't care about our customers. And luckily for us, sort of there's been a few sort of developments within sort of Facebook, for example, sort of threaded responses, and also sort of Odeon, we've sort of been developing our internal sort of strategy to try and sort of mitigate any sort of future crisis that may sort of be happening. So I'm going to move on to the next slide, creating a foolproof process. So communication is key. What I find is that I'm a central sort of part of the business. I need to know everything from sort of technical errors at sort of cinemas to sort of any promotions that are going on, to any kind of business changes, any sort of films that are happening, everything like that I'm supposed to know. And you need to make sure that people are telling you this information, that you have a regular source of how to do this. So, for example, set up regular meetings with different departments to discuss what's coming up, because if you're able to plan your strategy, it's going to help you sort of a lot more. And don't neglect offline hours. So just because you finish work for the day doesn't mean sort of your social media sort of space has. So you need to manage your customer expectations. Obviously, no one can work 24/7, and if you're a small business and you only have one person being able to manage this, then you need to just sort of let your users know. It's the whole point of social media. It's a sort of communication. It's a one-to-one tool. You can talk to your guests sort of like humans. You can talk to them. You've got a massive sort of marketing channel which we've never had before. So, for example, put a sort of post onto your Facebook site, pin it to the top, saying, we're out of the office this weekend, but if you'd like to get in touch with us, please leave a message or send us an email or give us a call, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And get into a routine. This is a really key one. Finding the time to sort of just respond can be a challenge, and it goes with the managing your customer expectations. Get yourself into a routine. You want to try and respond every sort of 2 to 3 hours. So block off some time in your calendar, sort of half an hour sort of for when you get in from work, a few hours later, a few hours later, a few hours later, and you'll soon find that just becomes part and parcel of your daily routine. And an FAQs document. Do you have the same queries every day? Can you anticipate sort of the queries which are going to happen? Create an FAQ stock, and then it saves precious time if you've got to deal with ad hoc queries, or if you're out of the office and you want someone to cover for you. And also something which I think is quite beneficial is community guidelines as well. We have these sort of on our Facebook page, and it just sort of protects us as well as our other users. You know, people swearing and spamming us, people posting to external links. Those are all sort of things which at Odeon we don't particularly tolerate, because we want to make people sort of we want to make the Odeon Facebook page a community. We want people to be able to talk to each other and express their opinions in a sort of safe environment. So you need to make sure if you have community guidelines, you can monitor those. And being prepared for the unexpected. Now, I'm sure everyone knows sort of on social you can never quite tell what's going to happen, and so try and plan. It follows on sort of from your day-to-day sort of sort of to-do list, as it were. You know, any business changes that might cause a stir, anything which you think is a regular issue, or you want to just sort of have in the background, create a social media stance document so your company can see how you'll be responding, and share it to everyone that needs to know, with examples, FAQs, and also a detailed sort of crisis escalation process, which I'll outline in a second. And what this means is that you're prepared. If something happens on social media, you're not running around and reacting. You're sort of being proactive and preparing for what's going to happen next. And it makes also sort of everyone in the company feel a lot sort of happier and safer with regard to any queries. So crisis escalation, for me at Odeon, this is invaluable, as the way in which we have our social media is I work sort of Monday to Fridays, and our customer service team manage it at the weekends. So we need to make sure sort of during my working hours and out of sort of my usual working hours, we have something in process. And what this means is, what does the crisis look like to you? If you've got more than one sort of Facebook page, if you've got one more social media channel, what does it look like? Because it can depending on how many followers, how many fans you've got. If you've got sort of 2 million fans, the crisis can look like, you know, sort of thousands and thousands of people sort of commenting on something. If you're a smaller business and only have a few thousand fans, it can be sort of just 12 people. So you need to sort of, there's no definitive guide. A crisis is what it looks like to your business, and that will evolve as you sort of understand your audience a lot more and understand what's important to them. And within this sort of crisis document, you need to have sort of a flowchart of who's who. If it's out of the office, if you're not available at the weekend, who's next? And following on that process, and what happens then? What happens if no one's there? What do they do? And this is where the FAQs document will really come into its own. And again, pre-prepared answers. So this is just the general responses and everything, but your crisis escalation document is that one step above. What happens if you go back to a guest, they're not happy with that response, and then it starts spiraling out of control? What is that next level? And these are the key ones. If you have a PR agency, make sure it's signed off by them, make sure they have a copy of these, and vice versa, circulate it sort of around everyone, just so that the business are happy. And if it is a case, if it's you by yourself on a Saturday night, you are able to respond with confidence. And my last one is, don't panic. If it is a weekend and it's a Saturday night and things are going viral and you can't get hold of anyone, just don't worry. Look back over these documents which you've got. These should all be prepared, and even if you're putting together an answer based upon the sort of support which you have in this document, you'll be able to help. And if genuinely you just can't answer it, just something to sedate the community, saying that you've seen what's going on, you understand, and you want to get back to them, you want to help them. But unfortunately, the office only work 9 to 5, and you won't know until Monday, but you will get back to them. And just hopefully you can sort of keep them, they just want to know that you're there and you're listening. And just a quick one on sort of why we do actually use Conversocial as this. It means you can track the user journey, which for me has been invaluable. If you have someone who's sort of complaining, and I think you can sort of see in the background here on the slide, you can sort of see someone's tweeted us and that they're upset about their experience. And then if you look on the right-hand side, you can see how they've sort of responded sort of to that cinema before. Have they been upset with us before? Have we not dealt with them properly? What's their story? And that will help you sort of empathise with them and help you sort of be a better sort of respond to them better. And also you can monitor sentiment, and that's fantastic, because it might just feel like everyone's shouting at you, everyone's having a go, and you know, if you actually look at your sentiment on Conversocial, what we tend to find is a lot of it is just sort of fairly neutral. It's people commenting, but also sort of a lot of it is positive as well. And you know what you say, you kind of always ignore the positive, and the negative is always the things that sort of take hold. And you can also measure efficiency around the team. If you're lucky enough to have sort of more than one agent responding, you can sort of see how well they're doing, how often they're responding, and how they're responding as well. Because it might be, you know, that just some little extra training needs to be popped in there. And the one thing I actually love about Conversocial is they're always up to date. When Facebook introduced the sort of threaded replies, within 24 hours of the API becoming available, Conversocial had actually sort of set this up and integrated that into their system, which I think is fantastic. And then I'm just sort of moving on to my last slide now, sort of my best tips for social customer care. Define a crisis. Like I say, it's not the same for everyone. It's personal to you, and you just need to build that on experience, and you're only going to hone that down sort of the more you get and the more experience you get. make sure your guidelines are useful. It's great just having all kind of fluff, sort of saying how we're going to deal with it, but you want some practical, right, if someone asks this question, what's the answer? If it goes one stage further into a crisis, what's the answer here? And try and think of every possible thing that can go wrong, because you know it's going to be the one thing you didn't think about. So just sort of really think, talk to everyone in your company, talk to the people who you might not think sort of might necessarily sort of have anything as a crisis. Talk to the finance people, find out what's going on everywhere as much as you can, have regular meetings, and you'll be able to sort of be a much better, sort of spread yourself much better. And like I say, don't panic. You know, it's fine. You're going to sort through it, and it's not going to stay like this forever. So that's me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks a lot, Rebecca. You obviously had this this crisis that affected you. Obviously, today we're talking about making the business case for social customer service, and Michael talked about some of the key stats about consumer expectations, and I'm actually going to go on and talk about some of the kind of ROI calculations you can do. Certainly something that we've seen over the years is that one of the main reasons that people initially start doing social customer service or start investing and resourcing into it is to help prevent these kind of crises because something happens to them. I'd be really interested in hearing from you about the impact of this crisis internally. Did it change the perception of social and social customer service in the company? Did it affect how people in senior management maybe perceived it and were willing to invest in it? I'd be really interested in any kind of thoughts you have around that.
Yeah, I think for us, social media has always sort of been important to Odeon, but we're still sort of, as you can see from the first slide, sort of fairly new in sort of when we introduced it. And I think the company were slightly surprised at the power behind social media. Everyone talks about it and everything, but until you actually, and a lot of the time it's in the positive light, you always hear about the great marketing viral campaigns, and then hearing about it in a negative light kind of skewed the company's sort of perception. And as such, we really kind of then racked up sort of our sort of process into it. We really tried to refine it, and we're still refining it sort of, daily, every week. Every time something happens, we always look at our process and go, what could have been better? But in terms of how it affected the brand, actually, I think it was, you can always turn something around into a positive, and I think for us it kind of made sort of people aware that Odeon do respond to customers. This is sort of Facebook and Twitter. It is a valid customer service channel, and for us it's something which we're really dedicated into sort of making sure that we work with our guests and our fans and making sure that we give them the best possible experience, whether it's in cinema or before they go into the cinema.
Great. Cool. Thanks very much.